Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you a bit about what's on my TBR. I'm going to talk through some of the books, read the back, let you know why I'm excited about them, why I chose to pick them up, etc. The books I just finished reading and have reviews coming in the next few weeks on are Beach Read by Emily Henry and Bunny by Mona Awad. Very pink and happy looking. So subscribe if you want to see those. But without further ado, let's get into the actual topic of this video. What's next on my TBR? First up we have Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I really love Beach Read. You'll see my review, but I gave it 5 stars. I thought it was a great romance with a bit of something extra, and I really liked the bookish themes, so I thought Book Lovers would be the perfect next Emily Henry book to pick up. The reviews for Book Lovers seem a little bit more mixed, so I'm not sure if I'll love it just as much, but I'm going into it with a lot of good faith that it might not be the best thing I've ever read, but I'm going to have a really fun, fluffy time with a bit of something extra at the same time. This is obviously big on book talk and booktube and all of those things, and the marketing, the colours, the vibes are immaculate for these books. Very marketable, which I'll discuss in my Beach Read review at the end. But, you know, this wore me down. At first I didn't really care to looking at it. It didn't look like my kind of thing, but the more I've seen it online, the more curious I become, the more open-minded I become, and thus here it is. So let's read the back, although I'm sure a lot of you already know. But it's about Nora, who's a cutthroat literary agent at the top of her game. Her whole life is books. Charlie is an editor with a gift for creating bestsellers, and he's Nora's work nemesis. Ooh. Nora has been through enough breakups to know that she's the one men date before finding their happily ever after. To prevent another dating dud, Nora's sister persuades her to swap her city desk for a month's holiday in Sunshine Falls. It's a small town straight out of a romance novel, but instead of meeting sexy lumberjacks, handsome doctors or cute bartenders, Nora keeps bumping into Charlie. Classic. Very Hallmark. Yeah, sounds okay. We'll see what I think. We'll see if it lives up to Beach Read's high standard. And next we have something unusual and colourful and exciting. It is, I'll have to read it, Dallergut Dream Department Store. Dallergut Dream Department Store. It's the Korean #1 bestseller, so it's translated. And it's by Leigh. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly, so really sorry if I'm not. And it's translated by Sandae Jusan Lee. It says on the front, the dream you ordered is sold out. Interesting. So it's paperback, but it's got little flaps like a hardback. It's not got anything on the back. So let's see what this one is about. In a mysterious town hidden in our collective subconscious, there's a department store that sells dreams. Day and night, visitors both human and animal shuffle in to purchase their latest adventure. Each floor specialises in a specific type of dream. Childhood memories, ice skating, dreams of stardom, your crush. Flying dreams are almost always sold out. Dreams of your favourite food make you feel like you can almost taste it. Join Penny, an enthusiastic new hire, as she uncovers the workings of this whimsical world and bonds with a cast of unforgettable characters, including Mrs. Weather, her reliable confidant, Baby Nap Rockabye, a famous dream designer, Maxim, a nightmare producer, and Dallergut himself, the flamboyant and genius mastermind behind the store. This is the first magical book in a best-selling duology for anyone exhausted from the reality of their daily life. Now, doesn't that just sound delicious? This sounds like Willy Wonka for adults. And I don't think I have to explain why I'm excited about this one. This is just promising a transportive, escapist experience. And I really don't know what to expect or what I'm going to learn from it, if it's going to be pure escapism or if it's going to bring in anything else. But I'm excited to find out, and it's not super thick or super long, so it's not too intimidating if it's a bit weird or if I'm not quite jiving with it. But I expect I will like this book. One of the things that really drew me to this when I seen it was that I have a recurring dream, or this recurring place in my dreams. Sometimes I'll find myself in a town in a dream, and I realise that there's this vintage store in the town that sells everything. It's kind of got a vintage bottom floor, but as you go up the floors it sells like all sorts of fantastical things. Not dreams, but other things. And I've been there a couple of times in my dream, and then I enjoyed the dream so much, it was such a positive experience, that now when I find myself in some sort of town in my dream, I go, oh, the vintage stores up there, I really have to go on a shopping spree in the vintage store. And I always go on this mission to find a store, and I've never been able to find the store again. So this feels like something taken directly out of my dream, almost. Maybe if I read this book, I'll be able to find the store again in my dream. Next, a bit of a change in tone, we've got Tender as the Flesh. And it's another translated fiction. I don't read a lot of translated fiction, so this is making me seem like maybe more scholarly than I am. But I'm excited to read more, and it seems very intriguing in a different sort of way to the Dream Factory, Dream Store. This book is about cannibalism, but kind of socially acceptable cannibalism, it seems. Let's read the back. If everyone was eating human meat, would you? Marcos is in the business of slaughtering humans, only no one calls him that. He works with numbers, consignments, processing. One day he's given a specimen of the finest quality. He leaves her tied up in an outhouse, a problem to be disposed of later, but she haunts Marcus. Her trembling body and watchful gaze seems to understand, and soon he becomes tortured by what has been lost and what might still be saved. And this is by Agustina Basterica, and Agustina is Argentinian, and it's apparently translated by Sarah Moses. I'm a little bit nervous. I'm not sure if this is going to make me sick to my stomach, make me feel really guilty about eating animals. I don't know if there's going to be a dark romance element. The back kind of implies that there might be something along those lines, but I really don't know what's to come, and I'm excited to find out, if a little scared. Next, staying on the horror kind of theme and dystopian theme, we have Eyes, Guts, Throat Bones by Moira Foley, an Irish/French author. Now, I've started reading this book already. I've read 3 of the short stories so far. It is a short story collection all about dystopian themes. Each of them so far, maybe all of them, but so far the 3 that I've read have like lesbians as the centre of the story, which is really unique. But the stories follow dystopian and horror kind of themes, and they're super imaginative so far. The writing style is literary, and it just pulls you in. It's hypnotic. Every time I'm unsure about picking this up, I pick it up and read the first page of a story, and then like I'm hooked and I can't stop until I finish the story. So let's read the insert. It's a nice hardcover. I just love the aesthetics of this book. When I seen it, I just had to pick it up, and I tend to display it on my chest of drawers because I just think it's dark and beautiful and delicious. So I'll read the insert and you will see instantly why I just had to pick this up. What will the end of the world look like? Will it be an old man slowly turning to gold, flowers raining from the sky, or a hole cut through the wire fencing that keeps the monsters out? Is it someone you love wearing your face, or a good old-fashioned interdimensional summoning? Does it sound like a howl outside your window, or does it sound like coming home? This startling and irresistibly witty collection from the phenomenally talented Moira Foley is an exploration of all of our darkest impulses and deepest fears. Does that not sound so intriguing? So I'm reading this currently. I don't know if I'm going to read it all in one go. I've kind of picked up the short stories like here and there, but I read one last night and I think I'm going to continue to read a few others because I'm in two minds about what to start next, to be honest. And just to give you an idea of the writing style, there's a clip on the back which I'll read. Her face itches, deep frisson at her hairline, tingle of burn along her jaw. She hooks her nails right in, digs up and under, shuddering like she's coming, breathes fast and hard. She gives one of those belly groans, fingers working faster, deeper in under the skin. Her whole face peels off and it's like a benediction. Horrifyingly beautiful. I can't wait to read more. Next we have Isaac and the Egg by Bobby Palmer. This is just one that I've seen in W.H. Smith, and I've not seen it online talked about. I've not seen it on Book Talk or anything like that, but I read the back and I just was intrigued and I just had to buy it. The blurb says, "It is early. A young man stands on a bridge and lets out a heart-wrenching scream. From deep in the woods, something screams back. It sounds improbable, but this is how Isaac meets the egg. The two are unlikely companions, but their chance encounter will transform Isaac's life in a way he cannot yet imagine. Maybe he will finally understand why he went there that morning. Maybe he will find a way to tell the truth. Sometimes to get out of the woods, you have to go into them." And what is the egg? Is it an egg? I don't know. Is it the egg like the short story The Egg, where like people die and keep coming back? Is that a reference? I don't know. If you've read it, don't spoil it. It's kind of down there on the list. I don't know when I'll finally get around to reading this book. I sort of forget about it, but then I pick it up and I read the back and I'm like, I have to read that at some point. I will. But I think I'll probably read a lot of these in the list before I get here. But let me know if you're as intrigued about this book as I am, or if you've read it and you recommend it. Please don't spoil it. I don't want to know what The Egg is until I read it, okay? Don't tell me about the egg. But yeah, Kate Sawyer, whoever that is, says it's just magic. And that's what I expect. Magic. Next, we have Really Good, actually, by Monica Heisey. This is a bestseller that I've just seen on the tables in the bookstore for quite a long time, and eventually I just picked it up. I read a couple of the pages and, you know, I was kind of drawn in, kind of hooked. And I really don't know what to expect from this novel either. Let's read the back. Maggie's marriage has ended just 608 days after it started. But she's fine. She's doing really good, actually. Sure, she's alone for the first time and can't afford to rent, and her obscure PhD is going nowhere. But at the age of 29, Maggie's determined to embrace her new status as surprisingly young divorcee. As Maggie throws herself headlong into the chaos of her first year of divorce, she soon finds herself questioning everything, including, why do we still get married? Did I fail before I even got started? How many 4 a.m. delivery burgers do I need to eat until I'm happy? So I think this novel offers kind of a funny comedic style. I think it's going to be like a light-ish read, but it's going to touch on some still heavy topics. I'm already not sure if I'm going to agree, if it seems to go into a kind of critique of marriage not being right. I'm not sure if I agree with that. I think, you know, some relationships cannot be right, but marriage isn't necessarily the problem. But we'll see what I get out of this. And more than anything, I just expect to be kind of entertained by this book. All of these little quotes seem to say it's a funny book, but has some like profound parts. Which I like. It's good to have balance. You can't just be laughing the whole time. I want to laugh, I want to think, I want to agree to disagree, all of that stuff. So I'm excited to read this. I'm not sure, I might take it on holiday with me. Seems like quite a nice holiday read. Next we have Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. I actually bought this book for my mum because I liked the cover. I kind of wanted to read it, but I wasn't sure I was intrigued enough to buy it for myself at that time. So I thought, you know what, it sounds good. It sounds like something my mum would like. I'll buy it for her for her birthday. And she read it super quick. She read it in like a week and she loved it. And she gave it back to me basically to say like, you should read this. But it's quite thick. And because I didn't have that strong impulse to buy it for me to begin with, it's taken me a while to pick it up and read it. I've seen loads of really positive reviews of it and they all seem to promise that I will enjoy it. So what I might do is take it on holiday with me where I have no escape and where I'll be getting a lot of reading done, and that will help me to get through this kind of thick book. And I know I'm probably going to love it, but we'll see when I get round to it. Let's read the back and see if it sparks anything in me. This is the story of Sam and Sadie. It's not a romance, but it is about love. When Sam catches sight of Sadie in a crowded train station one winter morning, he is catapulted back to the brief time they spent playing together as children. Their unique spark is instantly reignited. What comes next is a story of friendship and rivalry, fame and creativity, betrayal and tragedy, perfect worlds and imperfect ones, and ultimately our need to connect, to love and be loved. Actually it says to be loved and to love, but that seems wrong. And everyone's like, this blew me away. So I expect to be blown away, Pandora Sykes, whoever you are. Extraordinary. One of the best books I've read. See, I love John Green, so if he says that, then I'm sure it's going to be good. And I know there's also a lot of video games in this, so I'm excited to see what that's about. And next we have a little bit of a rogue one. It's called The Lost Bookshop by Evie Woods. And my friend got this for me for my birthday. And it's probably not one I would pick up from looking at the cover, but from reading the back, it promises like a bit of a magical experience as well, so I'm quite intrigued to read it. It says, on a quiet street in Dublin, a lost bookshop is waiting to be found. For too long, Opaline, Martha and Henry have been the side characters in their own lives. But when a vanishing bookshop casts its spell, these three unsuspecting strangers will discover that their own stories are every bit as extraordinary as the one found in the pages of their beloved books. By unlocking the secrets of the shelves, they find themselves transported to a world of wonder where nothing is as it seems. So it's kind of giving like the dream factory, dream store kind of vibes, like very magical realism, very mysterious. I'm very intrigued to find out what it's about and what happens. Let me know if you've heard of this book and if you'd recommend it, because I hadn't heard of this before I got it, and I'm excited. It's nice to receive a book from someone else a little bit blind, so I'm very intrigued. And last, and to be honest kind of least, we have Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. Now, this book has had a lot of criticism. Lots of the girlies that love Fourth Wing didn't like this book. A lot of people says it just kind of copies Fourth Wing and redoes the same arc, because at the end Violet and Xaden fell out, so they have to be enemies to lovers again in this book, which I don't think I'm gonna like. I'll do a review of Fourth Wing, there is one on my TikTok, but I gave it 3 stars. I did actually kind of enjoy it, but you know, it does have its flaws. I went into Fourth Wing with a lot of good faith, actually. You know, I remember kind of disdaining the Hunger Games and it being really popular, and then picking it up and reading it on the train home and being like, this is so good. And I thought, oh, maybe like Fourth Wing could be that. Like, I know it's not that cool and it's very book talky and there's a lot of criticism around it, but like, it is about dragons, maybe I'll like it. And I did quite like it. I think I liked it a lot more than ACOTAR. I'm not sure, maybe I was just a bit too jaded by the time it got to ACOTAR. But you know, it was just fine. I still had a lot of problems with it, which I'll do it in a review in the future, but for now, look at my TikTok. But I bought this when I was halfway through reading Fourth Wing and I was like still really enjoying it, and I was like, I'll definitely read the next one, definitely. But after finishing that, I didn't want to just pick this one up instantly. I just felt like it was big, it wasn't my usual style, and this one is big and I just couldn't face it at that time. I was like, I need some time to pass. So yeah, I've just kind of been waiting to get excited about this book again. Last year I read Fourth Wing end of October, November, December-ish time. Took me a while. So we're getting to that time of year again soon, and I think those vibes are in place for me to want to read it again. I could take it home for Christmas or on holiday and try to get through it there, because it is a big book. I think if I read it at home, I'm not going to get through it very quickly and it's going to hold me up for a while. But I'm not sure. I think if Fourth Wing is 3-star for me and 5-star for other people, and they didn't like Iron Flame, then I'm going to think Iron Flame is like 1 or 2 stars. But we'll see. Maybe we can have a really long rant review about it when it's done, if it really is that bad. Would you like that? Would you like that? That's probably what you're going to get. I want to go into it with as much good faith as possible, because I don't want to just go in thinking I'm going to hate it. I don't think that's very fair. So we'll see. Now that's actually it for my fiction TBR for the moment. I do have hundreds of other books, but they are nowhere close to being at the top of my list. I'm going to get through all of these first, unless I buy more new books. Although probably the next ACOTAR I will read the Frost and Starlight little novella. I do want to finish the series and read that in Silver Flames. I'm really fatigued by it, but I also kind of feel like I need to read Frost and Starlight at Christmas time, and if I don't read it this Christmas, I'll have to wait till next Christmas. So I'm still deciding on if I want to read that one, if I want to continue. If I do want to continue, then I'll probably need to do that this Christmas, but I'm already thinking about it as a little bit of a chore, which doesn't seem very fair. My non-fiction TBR is a little bit shorter, I promise. So to start, we've got Billy Connolly, Tall Tales and Wee Stories. Now, I'm Scottish, I love Billy Connolly. Haven't read any of his books before, but this was his 80th birthday edition, and I just thought I'd pick it up. I think it's lots of little stories, so I could just pick it up and read small excerpts as I go. But I've not started it yet. It says, this is the best of Billy Connolly, with 12 new tall tales. Coming from Glasgow, it's weird. I don't really tell jokes, like Irish jokes and all that. I tell wee stories, and some of them don't even have punchlines. But you'll get used to that as the night goes on and on and on and on and on. So yeah, I think this might be a collection of his wee stories that he tells in stand-up and has told for decades now. And I just love his stand-up, and obviously I'm from Glasgow, so I find it all very relatable, despite the big age difference between us obviously. And it just feels like home. I actually bought it at the airport on the way to Glasgow, and it just felt like a vibe. I think I was actually on my way to my grand's 80th birthday as well, so I must have just been like Yes, Glasgow, 80th birthday, yes, I will buy. Very conditioned by the day that it was. But I'm excited to read this. I don't know when I'm going to read this. I don't have like the highest motivation to do it, but I think it's just a book that I wanted to own, I wanted to pick up as and when and read little snippets of. I should really do that. I've had it for like a year and a half now. It's going to be on the TBR for a while. But I appreciate having it, and if I feel homesick, then maybe I'll have a little read of this book and feel like I'm back in Glasgow. Next, we have a book that I've read some of already, and it's massive, and it is The Better Angels of Our Nature by Steven Pinker. It's a classic, I believe, and it's a history of violence and humanity. So it's all about the human race over time and our tendency towards violence. It kind of goes into history, evolution, psychology, sociology, maybe even philosophy, I'm not sure. I picked this up secondhand, and that's because I was watching an equine behaviour webinar and the speaker recommended the animal welfare chapter in this book. It kind of goes through the history of violence within animal welfare and how things are getting better. You know, it can be hard to be really despondent about the state of the world, whereas this book actually kind of shows how we are trending positively almost across the board. I think it is actually across the board. So it helps us understand violence without making us feel like we're doomed. Like we're actually on a good trajectory. So the back says, believe it or not, today we may be living in the most peaceful time in our species' history. In this epic exploration of the human condition, Steven Pinker shows that despite the constant stream of news about war, crime and terrorism, violence of all kinds has been decreasing. Barbaric practices such as human sacrifice, torture executions, and chattel slavery have been abolished. Rates of death from war and homicide are dramatically down, and brutality towards minorities, women, children, and animals is in steady decline. Weaving together psychology and history, science and popular culture, The Better Angels of Our Nature reinvigorates the ideals of modernity, progress, and enlightenment. Pretty epic, if you ask me. Now, this is not where I am in the book. I actually skipped. I read, I think, the first couple of chapters and then I skipped towards, I was reading Inner Demons. Something about inner demons. I can't remember it. I probably need to start this book from scratch or just pick up and read chapters as and when they interest me. But the scope of this book is huge. So the first chapter which I've read, it was called A Foreign Country. So it covers like human prehistory, Homeric Greece, the Hebrew Bible, the Roman Empire, medieval knights, modern Europe, the 20th century, honour in Europe, and the early United States. So it goes through the whole of human history. And then it goes through the pacification process, the logic of violence, violence in human ancestors, rates of violence in state and non-state societies, civilization and its discontents. Then it went into the civilization process, and so on. There's the humanitarian revolution. That's where it talks about the abolishment of slavery, capital punishment, major war. There's a chapter called The Rise of Empathy and the Regard of Human Life. That's great. Talks about the long peace, the new peace, the rights revolution, so animal rights and the decline of cruelty to animals. That's a chapter that I actually need to read. But there's also a chapter on children's rights, women's rights, civil rights, gay rights. Whence the rights revolution? From history to psychology. And then the chapter that I've skipped to that I was really interested in, we've got Inner Demons. So this covers the dark side, the moralization gap, and the myth of pure evil. Organs of violence, predation, dominance, revenge, sadism, ideology, pure evil, inner demons, and the decline of violence. It then goes into better angels, so empathy, self-control, recent biological evolution, question mark, morality and taboo, reason. This book is literally nearly 1,000 pages. The index starts on page 975, so you'll see why I've been struggling to get through this book and why it's not really been a start to finish process. I'm such a slow reader. I wish I was faster just purely so I could get through this book, because the bits I have read, they are really well written, they're really accessible. This is not an overly difficult book to read. And the subject matter is so fascinating and so integral to my interests in psychology and history. And these themes are part of the novel that I'm writing. So this is really important research for me to get through. I think once I've written the first draft of my novel, I'll definitely have to make time to go back and read some of this and make sure that it's in my mind when I get into the revision process, to make sure it's as good as it really can be. But whether I'll ever finish this book, I'm not sure. It might take a lifetime, but I hope to get through it one day. Talking of research from my book, I've also got While Time Remains by Yeonmi Park. Now, I read Yeonmi's autobiography last year, and it was a wonderful book, and it was really harrowing, and it really opened up my worldview. Now, Yeonmi's story, for those who don't know, she was born in North Korea, and she encountered a lot of hardship while she was there. She was born and lived during the 90s famine in North Korea, and she was hungry all of the time. And she escaped, she defected. I think she was about 13 at the time. So did her sister and her mother, but she kind of got lost and separated from them and had to find them again. So she tells the story of her living in North Korea, her living in China where she was sex trafficked and had to work as a cam girl and went through a lot of trauma there. She then escaped from China and walked through the Gobi Desert, which used to be one of the old channels that people would escape from China. North Korean defectors would escape from China. She did this with the help of Christian missionaries, who basically made her convert to Christianity in order to help her. And then she was able to make it to South Korea, where she was just bombarded with like the modernity and the capitalism, and she went through a lot of therapy and support and experienced a lot of trauma, reflective trauma back on what she had experienced, like with that distance. And now she lives in the United States, and she's going to college, and well, she's graduated from college, I believe now. She had to learn English, she had to do all of her high school diploma in South Korea after she got there. And then she went to university in America and kind of remarked that there was a lot of censorship and a lot of communist ideals that concerned her coming from North Korea. So this book is about that. And the foreword is by Jordan Peterson, which, as we all know, is a controversial figure. She's been on Joe Rogan and I think Fox News and stuff like that, talking about these ideas. Obviously the right-wing commentators kind of gravitate to her because she is critical of the left and critical of communism. But I think despite the controversy and despite my beliefs or where I am on the political spectrum, I think hers is an important voice to listen to. I think it's only right to listen to what she has to say because she has suffered at the hands of a communist regime. And these are themes that I kind of want to touch on in my novel, which is also set within a communist kind of fascist kind of blend of the two regime. And it's critical of both regimes in my novel. So I think it's important learning, even if there possibly is some ideology, some of her own ideology and maybe Jordan Peterson's ideology in here. I think it's hard to be critical of these people's ideology if you haven't actually listened to them and read them. So I'll give it a read, I'll see what she has to say. I respect her opinion, and I'm excited. She's a good writer. I can't imagine going through what she's gone through, learning a whole other language and then publishing 2 books in that language. I mean, she's an amazing woman and she's doing really well, and I really value listening to her story. I think some people even have come online to say that she lied about some of her story or that she's unreliable, but wouldn't you be unreliable if you'd been through that trauma? Aren't you unreliable when you recall your childhoods? If someone asked me in-depth questions about my life story, I'm sure I'd probably get it wrong, and that's not with the amount of trauma that she's been through. I mean, she was literally starving for many years, and we know for a fact that that did happen in North Korea. We hear similar experiences from other defectors, similar experiences from people who've trekked through the Gobi Desert. They've been in sex slavery in China after they've been trafficked out of North Korea. So this does happen, whether she's correct or correctly recalling what happened to her or not. This does happen to people. It's been recounted many times, and it's important to have respect for that, in my opinion. So I'm excited to read this book. but I've not gotten around to it yet. Also, side note, it's like bigger than other books. It's like this, and like bigger in both ways, so on the bookshelf it's going to sit like this. I don't like that. That's so annoying. Criticism before I start reading, like, why did publishers do this? Her other book is normal. Her other book is normal sized. So why do this? I think she actually published it maybe independently. It's got kind of weird pages, kind of weird texture here. Yeah, not a fan of that. But otherwise, I have no opinion yet because I've not read it. Next, we've actually got a philosophy book. This is Sad Love by Carrie Jenkins. And I've read the start of this and I need to just start again because it was about a year ago. And this is a philosophy book about love and how sad it can be, because you have to experience breakups, you have to experience death and grief, and it kind of explores this topic. Let me read the back. As a woman with a husband and other partners, philosopher Carrie Jenkins knows that love is complicated. Love is most often associated with happiness, satisfaction and pleasure, but it has a darker side we ignore to our peril. Love is often an uncomfortable and difficult feeling. The people we love can let us down badly, and the ways we love are often quite different to the romantic ideals society foists upon us. Since we are inevitably disappointed by love, wouldn't we be better off without it? No, says Carrie Jenkins. Instead, we need a new philosophy of love, one that recognises that the pain and suffering love causes are natural, even a good part of what makes love worthwhile. What Jenkins calls sad love offers no bogus happy ever afters. Rather, it tries to find a way to properly integrate heartbreak and disappointment into the lived experience of love. It's time we liberated love. And Carrie Jenkins is an award-winning philosopher, novelist and poet. She's also a professor of philosophy and Canada Research Chair at the University of British Columbia. So the cover of this book, the kind of, what's that called, where you repair something broken with gold, the Japanese practice, can't remember, but I thought the cover was super striking. I studied a little philosophy at uni and wanted to get back into it. I read another really good, really accessible philosophy book a couple of years ago that really intrigued me and made me want to read more philosophy. And I think it's something we all struggle with, and something I've certainly struggled with recently, of grief and death and anticipating death of loved ones. And I thought reading this book might help me integrate and process some of those difficult feelings, because, you know, I really think about so with my horse and my pets and the dogs that I live with that aren't mine, I think a lot about their death because they're getting old, they're starting to get problems, and feeling a lot of grief, anticipatory grief and sadness about that. And I've been trying to prepare and think this through and think about, well, what will I do after they're gone? Will I get another horse? Will I get a dog instead? But the pain I feel is so strong about losing my horse that I just don't even know if I can face loving something like that again. Like, I don't know if I can go through the loss of that again. Sorry to get so heavy in a TBR book list, but this is just the motives that drive what I read, like what media I consume, what I think about. And sometimes reading is an escape from these difficult topics, and sometimes reading is done to help me cope with these topics. So it's something I've been thinking a lot about. And I think this book, you know, I started reading it and I need to start again and reread it again because it's relevant in my life. But I think it's important. I think this is something I need to deal with. It's something I need to work through, because the alternative is to just not love anything ever, to not get any more pets, to not have relationships, and you can't insulate and protect yourself from the heartbreak that comes with death, that comes with breakups, that comes with love. Like, if you want to experience the best of the world, you have to be open to these heartbreaking experiences too. And the need to love, the need for social connection, the need for company is very important to every human being, so you can't really avoid it. So yeah, heavy topic, and one that a lot of people I think run from it and they just try to not think about it and go, well, that's for the future and I'll deal with it when it happens. And maybe that is kind of a healthy way to deal with it, but you know, there's no amount of preparation you can do for heartbreak, and reading this book is kind of my way of trying to prepare for heartbreak. So maybe it will help, maybe it won't, maybe it'll make things worse, but that was my motivation for picking up this book. And I don't know if I'm excited about it, but I think it's important for me to read it. And the final book at the end of this very long video that I've also read part of already is How to Write a Novel by Harry Bingham. And this is a Jericho Writer's Guide. So I'm a member of Jericho Writers. Maybe I'll do a video about that at some point, but it's got lots of helpful resources for writers. And this is essentially a manual that goes through all of the elements of writing your novel, how to do a good job. And it's excellent, it's really well written, it's really clear, and it's got some very good advice in there. I've not finished it. I thought at a certain point I need to stop reading about writing and just write the book. But after I've done my first draft, I'll definitely go back, read this again and make sure that I really take it all in before I review the novel. I've also got a second book which is about how to publish a novel. I'm not going to read that yet because that's not where we are yet. But I'm very happy to have that guide, and I will read that when the time comes. But you know, it gets to a certain point where you feel like you're being productive by reading these things, but actually it's just taken away from your time that could be spent writing in the first place. So I've kind of had tough words with myself and said, like, bitch, put down the books, start writing your own book. You know all of this already. I've read so many resources, I've watched so many resources about how to write well, how to construct a plot, how to construct characters. My novel is plotted, the characters are developed, it's all there. I just need to get words on the page at this stage. And the way you get better at writing is actually doing it. So I'll write the novel. I should be better at writing by the time I finish it. I can read this book and then I can review it and make it even better and even better. And then I can read this other book and think about publishing. But that's it. That's everything. I know this is a very long video. Thank you for watching if you watched the whole thing, and please subscribe if you want to see me actually read these books and review them. I've got 2 reviews coming up, like I said, Beach Read and Bunny. Subscribe if you want to see those in the next few weeks, and I'll see you later. Thanks for watching. Bye.